The Strength in Silence: Mastering the Art of Saying Less. Written and published by Inspire Audiobook. Introduction: The Hidden Power of Silence. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people in the room often speak the least? They don't rush to fill the silence. They don't blurt out their thoughts impulsively. Instead, they listen, observe, and when they finally speak, every word carries weight. This is the strength in silence, an art mastered by leaders, negotiators, and thinkers throughout history. In a world obsessed with talking, oversharing, and constant noise, we've forgotten the power of restraint. We assume that saying more makes us seem smarter, more likable, or more influential. But in reality, the opposite is often true. The more we talk, the more we dilute our message. The more we reveal, the more we lose control. True power lies in knowing when to stay silent and when to speak with precision. This audiobook isn't just about speaking less. It's about communicating with impact. It's about using silence as a tool for influence, building deeper relationships, and commanding respect effortlessly. You'll learn the strategies of world-class leaders, the psychology behind why less is more, and practical techniques to master the art of saying less. By the end of this journey, you'll realize that silence isn't weakness, it's strength, and those who understand its power will always have the upper hand. Are you ready to transform the way you communicate? Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Science of Silence. Why less is more. In a world that glorifies constant chatter, where everyone competes for attention through words, the power of silence is often overlooked. Yet, science and experience reveal that speaking less can have profound effects on influence, credibility, and personal power. Studies in psychology and neuroscience confirm that people who speak less and choose their words carefully are often perceived as more intelligent, competent, and trustworthy. When we speak too much, we risk diluting our message, weakening our authority, and even saying things we might later regret. On the other hand, those who practice restraint in speech command respect and captivate others with their ability to listen and respond with clarity. Silence is not merely the absence of noise. It is a powerful tool that can shape perception, deepen understanding, and enhance communication. The human brain is wired to value scarcity. In speech, this means that the less someone speaks, the more their words are valued. Think about the leaders, mentors, and influencers who have left lasting impacts. They often speak with intention, making every word count. Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, and Steve Jobs were masters of concise yet compelling speech. In contrast, those who ramble or speak without precision are often dismissed or ignored. Studies on human attention span reveal that the brain processes shorter, well-structured messages more effectively than long, meandering conversations. This is why public speakers and negotiators emphasize brevity, knowing that people remember impactful statements rather than lengthy explanations. By mastering the art of saying less, we naturally become more persuasive and memorable. Silence also plays a critical role in emotional intelligence and social dynamics. In conversations, many people feel an urgent need to fill every gap with words, often out of discomfort or insecurity. However, those who can embrace silence exude confidence and control. When we pause before responding, we give ourselves time to process thoughts, choose words carefully, and avoid impulsive or unnecessary remarks. This skill is particularly valuable in high-stakes situations, whether in business negotiations, personal relationships, or moments of conflict, where a well-timed pause can shift the power dynamic in our favor. Psychological research has shown that people who practice strategic silence are perceived as more thoughtful and composed, while those who dominate conversations with excessive talking may come across as anxious or lacking self-control. Moreover, the power of silence extends beyond communication and into personal growth. Silence allows the mind to reflect, process emotions, and gain clarity. In today's fast-paced world, where distractions are endless, moments of silence can serve as a reset for mental well-being. Meditation, mindfulness, and solitude have been proven to enhance cognitive function, reduce stress, and increase focus. When we eliminate unnecessary noise, both external and internal, we create space for deeper thinking and better decision-making. This is why some of the world's most successful people practice intentional silence, whether through quiet morning routines, reflective journaling, or simply resisting the urge to respond immediately in conversations. In professional settings, the ability to say less is a powerful leadership trait. The most respected leaders are those who listen more than they speak, absorbing information before offering carefully considered input. Research in workplace dynamics suggests that employees are more likely to respect and follow leaders who communicate with precision rather than those who dominate discussions. This principle extends to personal relationships as well. Speaking less and listening more fosters trust, strengthens bonds, and allows us to truly understand others' perspectives. When we learn to harness the power of silence, we become better communicators, deeper thinkers, and more effective leaders in all aspects of life. Ultimately, the science of silence teaches us that words hold more weight when used sparingly. Every unnecessary word dilutes the power of the message, while a well-placed pause can amplify it. In a society obsessed with speaking louder, those who master the art of silence naturally stand out. By practicing restraint in speech, choosing words deliberately, and embracing the impact of silence, we can cultivate greater influence, deeper connections, and a stronger sense of self. The journey to mastering silence begins with one simple shift, recognizing that sometimes the most powerful thing we can say is nothing at all. Chapter 2 of The Strength in Silence, Mastering the Art of Saying Less. Throughout history, great thinkers, philosophers, and spiritual leaders have recognized the immense power of silence. From the wisdom of Stoicism to the meditative practices of Zen Buddhism, the principle of speaking less and listening more has been a cornerstone of wisdom, influence, and inner peace. The ancient world valued silence as a form of discipline, self-control, and enlightenment, teaching that true strength lies not in excessive speech, but in thoughtful restraint. The Stoic philosophers, such as Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, consistently emphasized that words should be measured and purposeful, arguing that silence holds greater wisdom than idle chatter. Epictetus, in particular, taught that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should listen twice as much as we speak. He believed that unnecessary talking often stems from a lack of self-awareness, insecurity, or an attempt to prove one's worth, whereas a person who masters silence commands respect and influence. Seneca, in his letters, warned against speaking excessively, advising that the wise person avoids gossip and empty words, instead choosing to speak only when necessary and only when their words add value. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, often reflected on the power of measured speech, stating that much of what we say is unnecessary and that true wisdom lies in filtering our words, ensuring that when we do speak, our words carry weight. He believed that by practicing silence and self-restraint, one could cultivate a stronger mind, a more resilient character, and a deeper sense of peace. The idea that less is more is also deeply embedded in Eastern philosophy. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher and author of the Tao Te Ching, famously said, "He who speaks does not know, he who knows does not speak." This paradoxical statement suggests that those who truly understand the world do not feel the need to constantly explain themselves. Instead, they act with quiet confidence, letting their actions and presence speak louder than their words. In Taoism, silence is considered a form of wisdom, a way to align with the natural flow of life, and a means of accessing deeper truths that go beyond language. Zen Buddhism also embraces silence as a path to enlightenment. Zen masters often use silence in their teachings, encouraging students to experience the present moment fully, rather than intellectualizing it through excessive speech. The famous Zen koans, paradoxical riddles used for meditation, often lead students to answers that cannot be articulated in words, emphasizing that true wisdom transcends verbal expression. Silence in Zen practice is not simply the absence of noise, but a powerful tool for self-discovery, clarity, and deeper awareness. The practice of meditation, a central tenet of Buddhism, teaches that silence allows us to observe our thoughts without reacting to them, helping us develop a sense of detachment and inner strength. The ancient samurai warriors of Japan also understood the power of silence, practicing the concept of mushin no shin, or mind without mind, which emphasized calmness, presence, and restraint. They believed that a warrior who speaks too much reveals his weaknesses, whereas one who remains silent retains his advantage. The idea of maintaining composure and avoiding unnecessary words was a fundamental part of the Bushido Code, the moral code of the samurai, which valued discipline, honor, and control over one's emotions. Across different cultures and traditions, the ability to say less while understanding more has been revered as a sign of wisdom, strength, and self-mastery. Even in modern times, the most influential leaders and thinkers have recognized the strategic power of silence. Mahatma Gandhi, one of the most powerful voices of non-violent resistance, observed a weekly day of silence, believing that refraining from speaking helped him conserve energy, sharpen his mind, and deepen his understanding of the world. He stated that silence brings inner strength and clarity, allowing one to speak only when truly necessary. Similarly, Albert Einstein, whose discoveries revolutionized physics, was known for his thoughtful, reserved demeanor. He believed that silence was essential for deep thinking, famously stating, "The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind." This echoes the idea that silence is not just a tool for effective communication, but also a powerful aid in problem-solving, creativity, and deep contemplation. The power of saying less is also evident in the world of business and leadership. Steve Jobs, the visionary behind Apple, was known for his ability to use silence strategically. During negotiations, he would often pause for extended periods, making the other party uncomfortable and prompting them to speak first. This technique, known as the power of the pause, allowed him to gain the upper hand in discussions, proving that silence can be a weapon when used wisely. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, also values silence, often choosing to listen more than he speaks. He believes that speaking less and observing more helps him make better decisions, an approach that has contributed to his success. The most respected leaders across industries understand that restraint in speech is a sign of confidence and authority. People who speak sparingly and with intention command more respect than those who fill every silence with words. In contrast, those who talk excessively often come across as insecure, seeking validation through speech rather than through action. The greatest orators in history, such as Martin Luther King Jr., Winston Churchill, and Abraham Lincoln, understood the impact of measured words. Their speeches were not filled with unnecessary fluff, but carefully chosen words that carried meaning, emotion, and conviction. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, for example, was only 272 words long, yet it remains one of the most powerful speeches in American history. This proves that the impact of words is not in their quantity, but in their quality. The ability to speak less and say more is an art, one that requires self-awareness, discipline, and a deep understanding of human nature. But why is it so difficult for most people to embrace silence? One reason is that modern society encourages constant talking and instant responses. We live in a world of social media where everyone is expected to have an opinion on everything, and silence is often mistaken for ignorance or passivity. However, the greatest minds throughout history have shown us that true intelligence is demonstrated not by speaking more, but by speaking better. Another reason people struggle with silence is that they fear discomfort. In social situations, silence is often perceived as awkward, leading people to fill the void with unnecessary conversation. However, learning to embrace silence rather than fear, it can be incredibly powerful. When you are comfortable with silence, you exude confidence and control, making others perceive you as more thoughtful and deliberate. The modern world may pressure us to speak constantly, but the wisdom of ancient thinkers reminds us that restraint is where true strength lies. By learning to say less, we allow ourselves the space to listen, think, and make wiser choices. The wisdom of the past is clear. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and warriors have all recognized that silence is not weakness, it is strength. The more we embrace this timeless lesson, the more we cultivate clarity, influence, and inner peace in our own lives. Speaking less does not mean being passive, it means being intentional. It means choosing words carefully, listening with depth, and allowing silence to create meaning. By mastering the art of saying less, we step into a world where our words carry power, our presence commands respect, and our influence grows not through excessive speech, but through the depth of our silence. Chapter 3: The Cost of Talking Too Much. We live in a world where words dominate, where constant chatter is mistaken for intelligence, where filling the silence is seen as a necessity rather than a choice. Yet, few realize that talking too much often weakens credibility, diminishes influence, and erodes the power of one's presence. The more we speak, the more we risk saying something unnecessary, regrettable, or even damaging. People who talk excessively are often perceived as insecure, anxious, or lacking control, whereas those who master brevity are seen as confident, authoritative, and wise. When we talk too much, we dilute the impact of our words. A powerful statement loses its weight when surrounded by excessive explanation or unnecessary details. Think of a great speech. Its most memorable moments often come from short, impactful phrases rather than long-winded monologues. Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address was just 272 words, yet it became one of the most powerful speeches in history. Contrast this with the habit of many individuals who believe that the more they say, the more persuasive they will be. In reality, over-explaining and excessive justification often come across as desperation rather than confidence. When someone feels the need to over-clarify their point, it signals insecurity in their own words, as if they are seeking validation rather than expressing certainty. Talking too much can also reveal too much, weakening our personal and professional boundaries. The more we speak, the more information we unknowingly disclose, sometimes to people who may not have our best interests at heart. Oversharing can make us vulnerable, and it can also make others uncomfortable. There is a fine line between being open and being excessive. Oversharing personal struggles, professional challenges, or even minor frustrations can create an impression of instability rather than authenticity. This is especially true in professional settings, where saying too much can be a liability. In negotiations, for example, people who cannot tolerate silence tend to talk themselves into disadvantageous positions. They reveal more than necessary, filling the space with unnecessary justifications, and in doing so, they lose leverage. A skilled negotiator knows that silence is often the most powerful tool. By staying quiet, they allow the other party to speak, often revealing their true intentions, or even making unnecessary concessions. In business, excessive speaking can also diminish leadership presence. Leaders who speak too much are often perceived as micromanagers, while those who speak concisely and purposefully command greater respect. Employees and colleagues tend to tune out long-winded leaders, while those who speak less and listen more gain the attention and respect of their peers. A leader who constantly talks may inadvertently communicate a lack of trust in their team, whereas a leader who speaks only when necessary signals confidence in their own decisions and in the people they lead. Furthermore, excessive talking reduces our ability to listen. The more we talk, the less we observe. We miss crucial details, fail to pick up on nonverbal cues, and lose the ability to read between the lines. Listening is a skill, and it cannot be developed if we are constantly filling the silence with our own words. The best communicators are not just skilled speakers, they are masterful listeners. They understand that true influence comes not from dominating a conversation, but from knowing when to stay silent. People who listen more and talk less often gain deeper insights into situations, allowing them to make more informed decisions. Excessive talking can also lead to misunderstandings. The more we speak, the greater the chance of saying something we do not fully mean or phrasing something in a way that can be misinterpreted. Words spoken in haste or without careful thought can create confusion, cause unintended harm, or even damage relationships. Many conflicts, both personal and professional, arise not from an intentional desire to hurt, but from careless words spoken too quickly. Silence, on the other hand, allows time for reflection. It provides space to think before responding, to choose words wisely, and to avoid unnecessary conflict. The most intelligent communicators recognize that what is left unsaid is often more powerful than what is spoken. Another cost of talking too much is the loss of mystery. People who constantly share every thought, every feeling, and every detail of their lives lose an air of intrigue. Mystery is attractive, whether in leadership, personal relationships, or social interactions. Those who do not reveal everything at once create curiosity, a sense of depth, and an aura of wisdom. When someone speaks less, their words carry more weight because they are anticipated and valued. If every thought is constantly voiced, it diminishes the significance of what is being said. Consider the power of a well-timed pause in a speech or conversation. It draws attention, heightens impact, and commands respect. Compare this to someone who talks non-stop. Their words blur together, their presence becomes exhausting, and their message loses significance. Silence, when used strategically, makes every word count. There is also a cognitive cost to excessive talking. When we speak constantly, we expend mental energy unnecessarily. Instead of directing our focus toward observation, analysis, and strategic thinking, we waste energy on verbal output. This is why highly disciplined individuals often speak less. They conserve their mental energy for moments that matter. Great thinkers, innovators, and decision-makers do not waste words, they use them purposefully. They understand that not every thought needs to be verbalized, not every moment requires commentary, and not every silence needs to be filled. The power of saying less extends beyond verbal communication. It applies to the digital world as well. Social media, for example, tempts people to overshare, to post impulsively, and to express every opinion in real time. Yet, some of the most respected individuals online are those who maintain a sense of discretion. They do not engage in every debate, they do not post every detail of their lives, and they do not feel the need to respond to every comment. Their restraint enhances their credibility, while those who constantly post and engage in online arguments often lose respect. Restraint in speech and communication also fosters self-discipline. The ability to control one's words is a reflection of the ability to control one's mind. Speaking less requires patience, thoughtfulness, and intentionality, all of which are traits of highly disciplined and successful individuals. It is easy to speak without thinking, but it takes strength to remain silent when necessary. This is why many of the most powerful figures in history were known for their reserved nature. They did not speak simply to fill the air. They spoke when they had something meaningful to say. The ability to say less, to resist the urge to over-explain, and to embrace silence as a strategic tool is a skill that, once mastered, can transform one's personal and professional life. Instead of measuring communication by the number of words spoken, it is wiser to measure it by the impact those words have. Those who speak less are heard more. Those who choose their words carefully are remembered longer. And those who understand the power of silence will always hold an advantage over those who do not. The cost of talking too much is not just in wasted words, but in lost influence, reduced credibility, and diminished presence. True strength lies not in speaking endlessly, but in knowing when to remain silent. Chapter 4. The Strategic Pause. How to use silence to your advantage. Silence is often overlooked as a communication tool, yet it is one of the most powerful strategies for influence, persuasion, and control. The ability to pause strategically can make the difference between a forgettable conversation and a memorable interaction. In a world that values constant talking, those who understand the power of the pause stand out as composed, thoughtful, and authoritative. The strategic pause is not just about remaining quiet. It is about using silence deliberately to create impact, control conversations, and command attention. When used effectively, a well-timed pause can increase the weight of your words, encourage deeper listening, and give you a psychological edge in any situation. This chapter explores how to harness the strategic pause to enhance communication, build stronger connections, and assert authority without saying too much. At its core, the strategic pause is a form of controlled silence that serves as a tool for influence. The moment you stop speaking, you create a vacuum that demands attention. In public speaking, the pause is one of the most effective ways to emphasize key points and allow the audience to absorb the message. Consider the greatest speeches in history. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Winston Churchill, and Barack Obama all mastered the art of the pause. Their speeches carried weight, not only because of what they said, but because of how they structured their words, allowing moments of silence to amplify their messages. A pause before a crucial statement builds anticipation, while a pause after a key phrase allows the message to settle in the minds of listeners. This technique works in personal and professional conversations as well. When you pause before responding to a question, you demonstrate thoughtfulness and self-assurance. Instead of rushing to fill the silence, You give the impression of measured confidence, making your words more compelling when you do speak. Pauses also shift power dynamics in conversations. In negotiations, for instance, silence is a secret weapon. Many people feel uncomfortable with silence and instinctively rush to fill it. Skilled negotiators, however, understand that silence creates pressure, often prompting the other party to reveal more information or make concessions. By mastering the strategic pause, you can turn negotiations in your favor. Imagine you are discussing a salary raise with your employer. Instead of immediately responding to their offer, you take a moment of silence, maintaining eye contact and allowing the weight of the moment to settle. This simple pause creates an air of expectation, subtly pressuring the employer to reconsider or justify their offer. The same principle applies in sales, leadership, and even personal conversations. When you pause, you place yourself in a position of control, making the other person eager to fill the void with additional information or concessions. In addition to being a tool for influence, silence also enhances understanding and deepens relationships. Too often, people listen only to respond, rather than to truly understand. Strategic silence, when paired with active listening, fosters genuine connection and trust. When you pause before responding to someone's words, you signal that you are fully processing what they are saying. This is especially powerful in emotionally charged conversations. Instead of reacting impulsively, a pause gives you time to assess your emotions, choose your words wisely, and respond with clarity. In relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional, the ability to pause before reacting can prevent misunderstandings, de-escalate conflicts, and show respect for the other person's perspective. Think about an argument where emotions are running high. A well-placed pause can break the cycle of reactionary speech, allowing space for reflection and reducing the likelihood of saying something regrettable. Psychologically, the strategic pause also enhances credibility. In social interactions, those who speak less but with more precision are often perceived as more intelligent and authoritative. This is because people tend to associate brevity with wisdom and thoughtfulness. When you take a moment before answering a question, you convey an image of careful consideration rather than impulsiveness. This principle is especially crucial in leadership roles. A leader who speaks with controlled pauses projects calm confidence, whereas a leader who rushes to speak may come across as uncertain or insecure. Additionally, a pause before responding can make others perceive you as a deep thinker, someone whose words carry weight. This is why some of the most respected individuals in any field, CEOs, philosophers, and thought leaders, often embrace the power of silence in their communication style. One of the most effective ways to practice the strategic pause is through mindful communication. Before engaging in an important conversation or presentation, train yourself to slow down and incorporate intentional pauses. One technique is to count to 3 in your mind before responding to a question. This prevents knee-jerk reactions and gives you time to formulate a more thoughtful reply. Another technique is to observe and analyze conversations where silence is used effectively. Watch interviews of great speakers and notice how they use pauses to create impact. A simple yet powerful exercise is to record yourself speaking and listen to the rhythm of your words. Are you speaking too quickly? Are you allowing space for your message to sink in? By consciously practicing these techniques, you can gradually incorporate the strategic pause into your natural speaking style. However, while the pause is powerful, it must be used wisely. There is a fine balance between using silence to create impact and allowing it to become awkward. A pause should feel natural and purposeful, not forced or excessive. If overused, silence can come across as hesitation or lack of confidence. The key is to use pauses in moments that enhance the conversation, before a key point, after an important statement, or in response to a significant question. Additionally, body language plays a crucial role in making a pause effective. Maintaining eye contact, displaying a composed posture, and using subtle facial expressions can prevent a pause from feeling uncomfortable. When used correctly, a pause should feel like an intentional moment of power rather than an awkward gap in speech. The power of the pause extends beyond verbal communication. It also applies to digital communication. In today's fast-paced digital world, where instant responses are expected, the ability to pause before reacting to an email, text, or social media post is a skill in itself. Many conflicts arise because people respond impulsively without taking a moment to consider their words. By pausing before hitting send, you create space to reflect on whether your response is necessary, clear, and aligned with your intentions. This practice can prevent unnecessary misunderstandings and ensure that your digital interactions are as intentional as your spoken ones. In business and leadership, email pauses can also be a form of strategic communication. Delaying a response can sometimes increase perceived value or urgency, similar to how silence works in face-to-face conversations. Incorporating the strategic pause into daily life requires conscious effort, but the rewards are significant. It enhances your presence, strengthens your words, and gives you control over conversations. It allows you to command attention without demanding it. It makes you a better listener, a more persuasive speaker, and a more respected individual. Whether in negotiations, public speaking, relationships, or digital communication, silence can be a secret weapon when used wisely. The next time you are in a conversation, resist the urge to immediately fill every gap with words. Instead, embrace the pause and witness the shift in how others respond to you. In mastering the strategic pause, you gain more than just silence. You gain the ability to speak with true power and precision. Chapter 5. The Art of Listening. Speak less. Understand more. One of the most underestimated yet powerful skills in communication is the ability to listen. Most people think communication is about speaking, expressing opinions, and making points heard, but in reality, the most influential communicators are those who master the art of listening. Speaking less and listening more not only strengthens relationships, but also enhances understanding, credibility, and influence. In a world where everyone wants to talk, the ability to truly listen sets you apart as someone who is wise, perceptive, and trustworthy. Unfortunately, many people listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand. They prepare their next words while the other person is still speaking, waiting for an opportunity to interject, or worse, cutting the speaker off before they've even finished. This habit not only weakens conversations, but also diminishes trust and respect. True listening requires presence, patience, and a willingness to set aside one's own thoughts to fully absorb what another person is saying. At its core, listening is about more than just hearing words. It involves decoding emotions, understanding intentions, and observing body language. Studies show that up to 93% of communication is nonverbal, meaning tone, facial expressions, and posture often reveal more than spoken words. A skilled listener picks up on these subtle cues and gains deeper insight into what is truly being communicated. For example, a person saying, "I'm fine," with a hesitant tone and downcast eyes likely means something very different than the words suggest. Recognizing these signals allows a listener to respond with empathy rather than assumption. When you are fully engaged in listening, you show people that they matter, that their words hold value, and that they are being heard. This, in turn, fosters trust and strengthens bonds, whether in personal relationships, business settings, or everyday interactions. The greatest leaders, negotiators, and influencers understand that listening is an active skill rather than a passive one. They use techniques such as paraphrasing, asking clarifying questions, and maintaining eye contact to demonstrate attentiveness. Active listening involves not just absorbing words, but also responding in a way that encourages the speaker to share more. Simple gestures like nodding, maintaining an open posture, or mirroring emotions can create a comfortable atmosphere where people feel safe to express themselves. Moreover, a well-placed pause after someone speaks often leads them to continue talking, revealing thoughts and feelings they may not have shared otherwise. Silence is an underrated but powerful tool in conversations. It invites the speaker to elaborate and allows deeper insights to surface. There are several barriers that prevent people from being effective listeners. One of the biggest obstacles is the internal urge to speak. Many individuals feel compelled to share their thoughts immediately, fearing they will forget their point or that their opinion won't be heard. This is particularly common in heated discussions or debates, where people focus more on winning the argument than truly understanding the other person's perspective. Another major barrier is distractions. In today's digital age, constant notifications, messages, and background noise make it easy to lose focus. Many conversations are half-hearted because people are glancing at their phones, thinking about their to-do lists, or simply not fully engaged. To be a great listener, one must consciously eliminate distractions and be fully present in the moment. This might mean putting the phone away, maintaining eye contact, and giving the speaker undivided attention. It requires training the mind to stay focused, rather than drifting into personal thoughts or preparing counter-arguments. Another important aspect of mastering listening is knowing when to hold back personal judgments. People often listen through the filter of their own experiences, which can create biases and misunderstandings. Instead of truly hearing what is being said, they interpret words based on their own assumptions or past experiences. This can lead to unnecessary conflicts, as people react based on what they think was meant, rather than what was actually communicated. To overcome this, it is crucial to approach conversations with curiosity rather than assumption. A useful technique is to ask follow-up questions such as, "Can you tell me more about that?" or "What did you mean when you said?" These simple prompts encourage deeper dialogue and prevent misunderstandings. Listening also plays a crucial role in resolving conflicts. When two people disagree, emotions often run high, and both parties focus more on defending their stance rather than understanding the other's perspective. This is where the power of listening can turn an argument into a productive conversation. By listening without interruption, acknowledging the other person's feelings, and responding with thoughtful questions, tensions can be diffused and solutions can emerge. A powerful phrase that can de-escalate a tense situation is, "I understand where you're coming from." Even if you don't fully agree, validating the other person's experience makes them more receptive to your perspective. People want to feel heard, and when they do, they become more open to listening in return. The benefits of being an excellent listener extend beyond personal relationships. In professional settings, great listeners are often the most respected and influential individuals in a room. Whether in meetings, negotiations, or leadership roles, Those who listen intently gain more knowledge, make better decisions, and build stronger connections. In contrast, those who dominate conversations with excessive talking often miss important details, alienate others, and come across as arrogant or dismissive. Consider some of the most respected leaders in history, figures like Abraham Lincoln, Nelson Mandela, and Warren Buffett. They were known not for talking endlessly, but for their ability to listen carefully, absorb information, and speak only when necessary. Their words carried weight because they were not wasted on meaningless chatter. There is also a psychological advantage to speaking less and listening more. The person who talks less in a conversation often holds the power because they are perceived as more thoughtful and measured. In contrast, someone who talks excessively may come across as desperate for attention or lacking self-control. This is particularly evident in negotiations, where skilled negotiators use silence strategically to put pressure on the other party. By remaining silent after making a key point, they allow the other side to fill the gap, often revealing more information than intended. This technique, known as the silent treatment in negotiations, is highly effective because most people are uncomfortable with silence and rush to fill it with words, sometimes making concessions they wouldn't have otherwise. Another overlooked benefit of deep listening is the ability to learn. Every person you meet knows something you don't, and by truly listening, you gain access to new knowledge, perspectives, and experiences. Many people miss out on valuable insights because they are too busy trying to prove their own intelligence rather than absorbing wisdom from others. A useful mindset shift is to enter every conversation with the goal of learning something new rather than proving something you already know. This simple approach not only makes you a better listener, but also helps you grow in knowledge and wisdom over time. Finally, the art of listening is a lifelong practice. It is not about staying completely silent, but about knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet. It is about making space for others to be heard while choosing your own words with precision. In a world that constantly encourages self-expression and social validation, listening is a rare and powerful skill that can set you apart. It enhances relationships, deepens understanding, and increases personal and professional success. If you want to be truly influential, start by saying less and listening more. You will be surprised at how much more you gain when you focus less on being heard and more on hearing others. Chapter 6. Brevity is Brilliance. How to be concise and compelling. In a world inundated with information, brevity has become the hallmark of brilliance. We live in a time when attention spans are shorter than ever, and the ability to convey a message effectively in the least amount of words possible is a rare skill that commands respect. It's easy to assume that the more we say, the more we'll be understood or appreciated, but in reality, the opposite is true. In fact, the ability to be concise, delivering powerful messages with fewer words, is one of the most persuasive tools we can develop. The key to this lies in understanding that what we leave out can often have a greater impact than what we include. Brevity doesn't mean sacrificing depth. Rather, it's about distilling your thoughts to their core essence, cutting away the fluff, and speaking directly to the heart of the matter. The brilliance of being concise is that it requires us to think more deeply, select our words more carefully, and create an impact that lingers long after we've spoken. This chapter delves into the power of brevity and how it can elevate both your personal and professional communication. The first step in mastering brevity is recognizing the difference between being clear and being verbose. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that the more words we use, the more convincing we will sound. Yet the truth is that excessive explanation often dilutes our message and weakens our influence. Consider how much information we are constantly bombarded with in daily life: news, social media, conversations, yet it is the concise, impactful soundbites that often resonate the most. Think about some of the most memorable speeches or quotes in history. Often, these messages are delivered in short, sharp statements that are easy to remember and reflect on. The genius of brevity is that it grabs attention quickly, holds it, and leaves a lasting impression without overwhelming the listener. It's the kind of communication that makes people sit up and listen, not because there's a flood of information, but because every word is intentional, powerful, and speaks directly to the listener's core. One of the reasons brevity is so powerful is because it respects the listener's time and attention. When we speak in long-winded explanations, we risk losing our audience's interest. In contrast, concise communication shows that we value the other person's time. It's the difference between throwing a lot of information at someone and giving them something worth reflecting on. Imagine a business meeting where someone presents a lengthy report filled with details that may or may not be relevant to the main point. After a while, people start to tune out, distracted by their own thoughts or the urge to check their phones. Now picture the same meeting, but this time the speaker delivers the same message in a few short sentences, each one brimming with purpose. Suddenly, the room is engaged, focused, and open to discussion. Brevity invites clarity, and clarity keeps the attention of the audience. Another aspect of brevity is its ability to amplify our message. When we learn to say less, we allow the power of our words to shine through. If you've ever had a conversation where someone goes on and on, repeating the same point in different ways, you know how quickly the message loses its impact. On the other hand, when we choose our words thoughtfully, we can emphasize the most important points, making them stand out without having to repeat ourselves. Think of a well-crafted sentence that leaves a strong impression, a quote, a piece of advice, or even a simple question. It's the kind of statement that stops you in your tracks, urging you to pause and reflect. That's the magic of brevity. It makes every word count, heightening the importance of what is said and leaving the listener with something that sticks. To become skilled at being concise, we must first learn to focus our thoughts. Often, the reason we speak too much is because we haven't taken the time to process our ideas clearly. We feel the urge to speak because we want to make sure we've communicated everything, but in doing so, we dilute our message. When we pause to organize our thoughts before we speak, we give ourselves the space to decide what is truly necessary and what can be left unsaid. This requires practice, and it's not always easy. We live in a culture that often rewards people for talking more, for being the loudest voice in the room, or for presenting information in a way that seems exhaustive. But real power lies in restraint. The more we practice the art of brevity, the more we come to realize that fewer words can have a much stronger impact than an overabundance of them. A good exercise for practicing brevity is to challenge yourself to communicate an idea in as few words as possible without losing its meaning. Take a complex subject and try to explain it in one sentence or even in a short paragraph. This exercise forces you to identify the essence of the message and strip away anything that isn't necessary. When you can do this with ease, you begin to develop the skill of saying just enough, enough to make your point, enough to leave an impact, but not so much that the message gets lost in unnecessary detail. Another powerful technique is to ask yourself, what do I want the listener to remember? When we focus on the core message, we can cut through the noise and deliver something memorable and impactful. There are, of course, times when elaboration is necessary. Context, nuance, and emotional connection can often require us to go beyond the surface level. However, even in these instances, brevity can still play a role. By starting with a clear, concise point and then adding the supporting details, we maintain focus and prevent ourselves from rambling. In fact, when we speak concisely, we invite the listener to engage more actively with what we're saying. They become curious, eager to know more, and more likely to remember the message in the long run. One of the most compelling benefits of mastering brevity is the way it boosts our confidence. When we can communicate clearly and succinctly, we don't feel the need to over-explain or justify ourselves. We stop relying on a flood of words to make us feel heard, and instead, we learn to trust the power of what we say. This newfound confidence radiates in both personal and professional settings. People begin to view us as more thoughtful, decisive, and authoritative. When we speak less, we gain a reputation for being a strong communicator, someone who can get to the point and make it count. In a world where information is constantly flowing and attention is fleeting, the ability to be concise and compelling is a rare and valuable skill. Brevity not only helps us communicate more effectively, but it also shows respect for our audience, amplifies our message, and builds our credibility. It's a skill that can be learned and refined, and as we develop it, we begin to see just how much more power we hold when we choose our words with intention. So the next time you're tempted to elaborate, pause for a moment and ask yourself, how can I say this in fewer words? You might be surprised at just how much stronger your message becomes. Chapter 7. Silence in Negotiation. How to win without saying much. Negotiation is often viewed as a battle of words, with people believing that the more they speak, the stronger their position becomes. However, the power of silence in negotiation is often underestimated, yet it can be one of the most powerful tools you can use to gain an advantage. Silence has an inherent strength that can shift the dynamics of any conversation, particularly when it comes to negotiating deals, resolving conflicts, or achieving the outcomes you desire. This is because silence allows the other party to fill the gap, often revealing more than they intend to, and offering you a greater understanding of their position. It also gives you the time to process information, weigh your options, and respond with more thoughtfulness and precision. At its core, silence in negotiation is about control, not just controlling the conversation, but controlling your own responses and emotions. It allows you to listen deeply, observe body language, and absorb the underlying motivations and pressures that might be influencing the other party. When you remain silent, you are signaling confidence, patience, and the willingness to wait for the right moment to speak. It's an essential skill in high-stakes negotiations, where a well-timed pause can be more powerful than a flood of words. A key component of using silence effectively in negotiation is understanding the power of the pause. In many situations, people feel an overwhelming urge to fill silence with words. This instinct comes from a fear of awkwardness or a belief that more information will improve the chances of success. But in reality, the pause creates an atmosphere of tension that often works in your favor. When you stop speaking and wait, you give the other party the opportunity to respond. This pause creates discomfort, and when people feel uncomfortable, they tend to reveal more than they intend. In fact, research has shown that when there's a long pause after a question or statement, individuals often speak again to relieve that discomfort, sometimes divulging crucial information. It's at this point that you, the skilled negotiator, can decide how best to use this information to adjust your approach and steer the negotiation in your favor. The silence encourages them to speak, to elaborate, and to potentially weaken their position by over-explaining or making concessions they hadn't initially intended to. Another aspect of silence in negotiation is its role in signaling power. When you remain quiet, you are not rushing to fill the conversation with your own thoughts or demands. You are choosing not to be swayed by pressure or emotion. This silent strength demonstrates your confidence in your position and your willingness to hold steady. It tells the other party that you are in control, that you don't need to say much to get what you want, and that your silence is a sign of strategic thinking. This can be especially effective when dealing with tough negotiators or those who are trying to push you into making hasty decisions. The longer you stay quiet, the more pressure they may feel to respond, often making concessions in the process. In this way, silence can be a form of psychological leverage. It creates a dynamic where the other party is unsure about your thoughts and intentions, and they may begin to second-guess their own strategy. The silence works as a subtle reminder that you don't need to resort to words to demonstrate your value or authority. Instead, your confidence in your silence becomes your negotiating edge. In negotiations, silence also allows you to observe the other party more carefully. When they are speaking, you can pick up on subtle clues, body language, tone of voice, the hesitation between sentences, that offer insights into their thoughts, fears, and intentions. Often what is not said is just as important as what is said. A person might agree to terms verbally, but their body language or tone may reveal uncertainty or reluctance. Silence gives you the space to notice these nuances and understand the full context of what is happening beneath the surface. Moreover, silence provides the time needed to reflect on the information being exchanged. Instead of reacting impulsively, you can analyze the situation, think through your options, and respond thoughtfully. This deliberate approach ensures that your responses are calculated, rather than driven by emotion or a desire to fill the empty space with words. You begin to master the art of listening, not just to the words but to the silence between them, which often tells you just as much. One powerful example of silence in action can be seen in the world of business negotiations. Successful business leaders and negotiators often use silence as a tool to exert influence, gain crucial information, and avoid unnecessary conflict. Consider the case of a company trying to secure a contract with a potential partner. The initial conversation might involve a lot of talking on both sides, as each party presents their case. However, when it comes to discussing the financial terms, the skilled negotiator might stay quiet after presenting an offer. This silence is not uncomfortable. It's a strategic pause. By holding back, the negotiator gives the other side the opportunity to respond, often prompting them to offer their own terms or show more flexibility. The silence creates a sense of pressure, and often the other party will reveal their true limits or even make an unexpected concession in order to fill the void. In this scenario, silence has allowed the negotiator to steer the conversation toward a more favorable outcome, simply by waiting for the other side to react. Silence can also help to manage emotions during negotiation. Negotiations can sometimes become heated or emotionally charged, especially when stakes are high. In these situations, silence acts as a buffer against impulsive reactions, rather than immediately defending your position or reacting to an aggressive statement. The ability to pause allows you to cool down, avoid escalating the conflict, and think more clearly. Silence allows for a reset, giving both parties a moment to regain composure. It shifts the power dynamic from one of emotional volatility to one of calm and reason. When emotions are high, silence brings the focus back to the issues at hand and away from personal attacks or emotional outbursts. One of the most common scenarios where silence can be a game changer is during salary negotiations. Imagine you are in a room with a hiring manager discussing the terms of your employment. After you've made your case for the salary you deserve, there's a natural temptation to fill the silence with more justification, perhaps even lowering your expectations to appear more agreeable. However, if you hold your ground and remain silent after making your request, you may be surprised at the result. The hiring manager might be the one who feels compelled to speak next, potentially offering a higher salary or additional benefits to move the conversation forward. The silence creates a psychological effect where the other party feels the need to respond in a way that closes the gap between your expectations and their offer. Ultimately, silence in negotiation is about creating space for reflection, space for observation, and space for influence. It's about knowing when to speak and when to wait, how to read the room, and how to maintain control over the flow of conversation. It's not about being passive or withholding information, but about being strategic with your words and understanding the power of restraint. The next time you enter a negotiation, remember that silence can often be your greatest ally. Whether it's waiting for the other party to speak, giving yourself time to process, or simply creating a moment of tension that compels action, silence is a tool that, when used wisely, can lead to stronger positions and better outcomes. Chapter 8. Silent Leadership. Why the most powerful leaders speak less. In the realm of leadership, the most effective leaders are often those who speak less, but when they do, their words carry great weight. The ability to lead with silence is not about withholding communication or avoiding interaction. Rather, it is about cultivating an aura of presence that commands attention without needing to fill every silence with words. Silent leadership operates on the principle that actions speak louder than words, and by speaking less, a leader creates space for others to think, reflect, and contribute. This kind of leadership is rooted in trust, confidence, and respect. It's the quiet leader who listens intently, absorbs information, and makes decisions that reflect the needs of the team without unnecessary elaboration or chatter. The power of silence in leadership lies in its ability to foster an environment of contemplation, strategic thinking, and clarity of purpose. One of the key aspects of silent leadership is the ability to lead by example. Leaders who speak less tend to prioritize action over words. They understand that people are often more influenced by what they see than what they hear. When a leader is consistent in their behavior, acts with integrity, and leads through example, their silence becomes a reflection of their confidence in their own decisions. It becomes a form of non-verbal communication that conveys strength and certainty. For example, Mahatma Gandhi, one of the world's most revered leaders, was known for his silence as a tool for both protest and leadership. His willingness to remain silent, especially in the face of adversity, communicated a profound strength and resilience that words could not match. His leadership wasn't about grand speeches, but about aligning his actions with his beliefs, leading by example rather than by dictation. Silence also serves to create an aura of mystery and intrigue around a leader. When a leader is reserved in their speech, they are perceived as more thoughtful and deliberate. People often fill in the gaps of silence with curiosity, wondering what the leader is thinking, what they will say next, or what decision they will make. This strategic withholding of information can give the leader a powerful advantage, as they do not reveal everything up front, allowing them to maintain control of the narrative and influence the direction of conversations and decisions. It also helps the leader avoid overcommitting or making hasty decisions, as silence offers them the time to reflect, process, and come to a more informed conclusion. In a world where constant communication and noise often dominate, the ability to stay silent and reflect can be a rare and valuable trait for any leader. In addition to creating intrigue and maintaining control, silence in leadership fosters respect. Leaders who do not dominate every conversation with their voice tend to inspire more respect from their team. This is because their silence communicates confidence in the abilities of their team members. When leaders speak less, they implicitly show that they trust others to contribute, to share their ideas, and to make decisions. This creates a collaborative atmosphere where the team feels valued and empowered, and it encourages innovation, creativity, and ownership. People are more likely to take initiative when they feel their contributions are appreciated, and when leaders speak less, they create the space for this to happen. Furthermore, silent leaders excel at managing emotions and conflicts. In tense situations, it is easy to fall into the trap of reacting impulsively or trying to control the situation with words. However, great leaders understand that sometimes the best response is to remain silent and allow time for emotions to settle. By not rushing in with words, they provide a space for calm reflection and resolution. This type of restraint prevents the escalation of conflict and encourages a more measured, thoughtful approach to problem solving. It also positions the leader as someone who is emotionally intelligent, who can handle difficult situations with composure and self-control, a quality that is invaluable in high-pressure environments. The concept of silence in leadership also extends to the art of listening. Silent leaders are often the best listeners. By speaking less, they allow others to share their thoughts and feelings without interruption. This active listening fosters strong relationships, as team members feel heard and understood. A leader who listens without rushing to respond or interject shows that they value the perspectives of others, and this respect strengthens the bond between the leader and their team. Effective leaders know that they do not have all the answers, and by remaining silent and listening carefully, they gain valuable insights that can inform their decisions. Listening with intention also gives the leader the space to assess the situation more fully, weigh different viewpoints, and make more thoughtful, well-rounded decisions. In the corporate world, silent leadership can also be a strategic tool for managing power dynamics. When a leader speaks less, they create a sense of equality within the group. Rather than dominating conversations, they allow space for others to speak up, which can lead to a more open and inclusive environment. This approach reduces the potential for hierarchies and power struggles, as team members do not feel overshadowed or unheard. By embracing silence, leaders empower their team members to take ownership of their roles and contribute their expertise without fear of being dismissed or overshadowed. This creates a culture of mutual respect, where everyone has the opportunity to contribute and make an impact. Moreover, silent leadership also builds emotional resilience in leaders themselves. Leaders who master the art of saying less are less likely to be swept away by the emotional tide of every conversation or situation. They learn to detach from the need to constantly control or influence others through their words. This emotional detachment allows them to stay calm under pressure and maintain a clear vision of their goals. By refraining from unnecessary speech, silent leaders also give themselves the time and space they need to recharge, reflect, and recalibrate. Leadership can be draining, but those who master silence are able to conserve their energy and avoid burnout, making them more sustainable in the long run. The effectiveness of silent leadership is evident in many historical figures. For instance, Winston Churchill, while known for his speeches, also understood the power of silence in leadership. In times of crisis, he would often remain silent, letting his actions and decisions speak louder than words. His measured silence in critical moments provided the British people with the confidence and certainty they needed to endure difficult times. Another example is Steve Jobs, whose quiet demeanor and minimalist approach to communication were integral to his leadership style. Jobs often allowed his team to take center stage, while he observed and assessed the situation, stepping in only when necessary. His silence spoke volumes, conveying his trust in his team's abilities and his clear vision for the company. In conclusion, silent leadership is a powerful and effective tool for those who understand its nuances. Speaking less allows leaders to lead by example, build trust, foster collaboration, and maintain emotional control. It also enhances their ability to listen, reflect, and make more thoughtful decisions. By mastering the art of silence, leaders can cultivate a leadership style that commands respect, influences others without overpowering them, and creates a positive, collaborative environment for everyone involved. In a world that often values noise and constant communication, the ability to speak less is a skill that sets the truly powerful leaders apart. Chapter 9: Speaking Less in Relationships. Strengthening bonds through silence in relationships. Whether personal or professional, the art of saying less can be a powerful tool for deepening connections and fostering understanding. The common misconception is that communication is about how much we say, but in reality, the depth of our bonds is often determined by how well we listen and how carefully we choose our words. Silence, when wielded effectively, can be a sign of respect, attentiveness, and a way to communicate love or understanding without uttering a single word. It's not about avoiding conversations or withholding important thoughts, but rather about creating space for deeper connection and better communication. This is especially true in intimate relationships, where the temptation to fill every silence with words can often lead to miscommunication or frustration. In the fast-paced world we live in, many of us have become so accustomed to talking as a way to express our thoughts, desires, and feelings that we forget that sometimes silence can say far more than words ever could. When we speak less, we leave room for our partners, friends, and family to express themselves fully, allowing for a more genuine exchange of emotions and thoughts. The act of listening, truly listening, can often communicate that we care more than any well-thought-out statement ever could. It shows that we value the other person's perspective and that we are present in the moment, attuned to their needs and feelings. There are countless instances where speaking less in relationships can strengthen the bond between two people. Take, for example, the moments when someone is grieving or going through a tough time. Often, our instinct is to try and console them with comforting words or advice. However, sometimes what a person truly needs is not words, but the silence that allows them to process their feelings without interruption. In these moments, simply being there, offering the gift of your quiet presence, can convey empathy and understanding more effectively than any reassuring phrase. The power of silence in these circumstances lies in its ability to show that you are not trying to fix the situation or diminish their pain, but instead offering a safe space for them to navigate their emotions. Furthermore, silence in relationships can lead to better self-awareness and personal growth. When we stop talking, we give ourselves the chance to reflect on our own feelings and thoughts. Often, in the hustle of constant communication, we lose touch with our inner selves. Taking a moment of quiet in a conversation allows us to gather our thoughts and respond more thoughtfully, rather than reacting impulsively. This not only helps us avoid misunderstandings, but also ensures that our words carry more weight and meaning when we do speak. This practice of speaking less can also help prevent the common pitfall of over-communicating in relationships, where too much conversation can sometimes dilute the impact of what we truly mean. In romantic relationships, for instance, couples can sometimes fall into the trap of overanalyzing every situation, speaking incessantly about their needs and desires. While open communication is essential, over-communication can cause unnecessary friction, as both parties become so focused on speaking their truth that they forget the importance of listening and understanding the other person's perspective. When we allow ourselves to say less, we create an atmosphere where both people can feel heard, respected, and valued. In friendships, silence can serve as a reflection of comfort and trust. Often, the best friendships are those where people feel free to be themselves, to sit in comfortable silence without the pressure to fill every moment with conversation. This kind of silence indicates a deep level of understanding between friends, a recognition that being together doesn't always require verbal exchange. In these moments, the bond is strengthened not by words, but by the shared understanding and acceptance that exists between the individuals. The ability to simply be with someone, to enjoy their presence without needing to talk, is an often overlooked strength in relationships. In fact, it's through silence that many of our most meaningful moments with others are created. Whether it's sitting with a friend, as you both read, watching a sunset together, or enjoying a shared activity without needing to constantly talk. These shared silences create a unique kind of intimacy that words cannot replicate. Similarly, silence can play a crucial role in professional relationships. In the workplace, clear communication is paramount, but there are times when speaking less can lead to greater respect and influence. The ability to remain silent during a heated discussion or to pause before offering an opinion can demonstrate self-control and emotional intelligence. Leaders who speak less often command more respect because their words are deliberate and impactful. They understand the importance of not overloading others with information or unnecessary opinions. When a leader speaks only when necessary, their words carry weight, and when they do speak, others are more inclined to listen. This doesn't mean that communication should be minimized to the point of neglecting crucial conversations, but rather that there is power in pausing before responding, in choosing when and how to contribute. Furthermore, when we speak less in professional relationships, we also open up space for others to express their ideas and opinions. A good leader or colleague knows when to step back and let others take the spotlight, creating a more inclusive and collaborative environment. Silence also plays a key role in setting boundaries in relationships. Sometimes, the most powerful way to protect yourself emotionally is not by voicing every discomfort or concern, but by choosing silence as a form of self-preservation. When we speak less, especially in moments of conflict or disagreement, we create space for calm and rational thinking. Reacting impulsively with words often leads to regret and further conflict. Instead, taking a moment of silence before responding allows us to choose our words more carefully, to ensure that we are speaking with clarity and intention rather than out of frustration or anger. This is particularly important in difficult or high-stakes conversations where emotions can run high. By embracing silence as a tool for reflection and emotional control, we can maintain the integrity of our relationships and avoid unnecessary escalation. Finally, silence is a powerful way to express affection. In many relationships, the most genuine expressions of love and care are not found in grand gestures or constant verbal reassurances, but in the quiet moments shared together. The act of sitting with someone without feeling the need to fill every space with words can be a profound way to show them that you value them. Sometimes, it's the silence in a hug, the quiet in a shared glance, or the peace in a moment spent together that carries the most meaning. These moments speak louder than words ever could, reinforcing the bond between two people in a way that verbal expressions often fail to do. In conclusion, speaking less in relationships is not about shutting down communication or avoiding necessary conversations. Instead, it's about recognizing the power of silence as a tool for enhancing understanding, showing respect, and fostering deeper connections. When we speak less, we create room for others to share, reflect, and process their emotions. We become better listeners, more intentional speakers, and more mindful participants in our relationships. In a world that often values constant communication, mastering the art of silence can be one of the most powerful ways to strengthen our bonds with others and build more meaningful, authentic connections. Chapter 10. Digital Silence. Controlling your voice in the online world. In today's hyper-connected world, silence can feel like a rarity, especially in the online space where everyone seems to have an opinion, an update, or a thought to share at every moment. The digital age has revolutionized how we communicate, but it's also brought with it an overwhelming pressure to be constantly present, to be heard, and to stay visible. The result? We speak more than ever, not always thoughtfully, and often without considering the long-term impact of our words. The need for validation, the rush to keep up with trends, and the fear of missing out FOMO often push us to share more, post more, and comment more, sometimes without pause. Yet, in this digital world, where noise seems to reign supreme, silence holds more power than ever before. By mastering digital silence, we can cultivate more control over our voice, strengthen our personal brand, and protect our mental and emotional well-being. The first step in embracing digital silence is understanding its significance. In the age of social media, where opinions fly at lightning speed and everyone has a platform, we often feel compelled to contribute to every conversation. The truth is, not every thought needs to be voiced, not every trending topic demands our opinion, and not every comment is essential. Our digital presence, just like our real-world presence, should be intentional and thoughtful. The decision to speak or not to speak can have far-reaching consequences, especially when it's so easy to share a fleeting thought in a moment of impulse. In this context, digital silence is about mastering the ability to pause, reflect, and choose when and how to respond. When we understand that silence in the digital world doesn't equate to absence, but to strategic presence, we can regain control over our voice and make it far more impactful. A key aspect of digital silence is resisting the urge to react impulsively. With notifications constantly buzzing, it's easy to feel the pressure to engage immediately. Whether it's a heated debate on a social media post or a provocative comment in a group chat, there's a powerful pull to jump in and offer our perspective. However, the most powerful response is often no response at all. By taking a step back, we give ourselves the opportunity to process our thoughts, assess whether our input adds value, and avoid the trap of mindless commentary that can lead to misunderstandings or even damage relationships. Silence in this instance allows us to avoid reactive communication that might stem from emotion or ego, and instead respond with clarity and intention when the moment is right. In situations where we might otherwise be quick to speak, taking the time to pause, think, and then decide whether or not our contribution is necessary is an essential practice for digital discipline. Moreover, mastering digital silence is about understanding the importance of boundaries. The digital world doesn't sleep, and with it comes an endless stream of messages, emails, notifications, and requests for attention. The pressure to constantly be on can be overwhelming, and often it leads to burnout or the loss of personal time. By embracing digital silence, we can establish clear boundaries for ourselves. This means consciously choosing when to unplug, when to turn off notifications, and when to step away from the noise. We can reserve our energy for moments that truly matter, creating space for reflection and recharging. Silence, in this case, is not just a tool for communication, but a form of self-care. It is a way of protecting our mental space and ensuring that we don't get caught up in the endless cycle of digital busyness that can dilute our focus and sense of purpose. Furthermore, digital silence gives us the opportunity to choose our words more wisely, enhancing the quality of our online communication. In an era where much of our interaction is text-based, our words carry more weight than ever before. Without the benefit of tone, body language, or facial expressions, written communication can easily be misinterpreted. A well-placed, thoughtful comment can create connections and build relationships, while a hasty remark can damage reputations or spark conflict. By practicing digital silence, we allow ourselves the time and space to reflect on our message before sharing it. This allows us to craft responses that are clear, respectful, and considerate of the other person's perspective. We can pause before reacting to inflammatory posts, avoiding knee-jerk responses that might fuel division or anger. In doing so, we position ourselves as intentional communicators who add value rather than contribute to the noise. Another profound benefit of digital silence is that it allows us to cultivate a sense of mystery and intrigue. The more we reveal about ourselves, the more we invite judgment, opinions, and expectations from others. However, by withholding some of our thoughts, insights, and personal details, we can create a sense of exclusivity. Our words, when they are shared, will carry more weight because they are fewer and more deliberate. This can be particularly useful in personal branding, where less frequent but more thoughtful posts can make a stronger impression than constant updates. Silence in this context builds anticipation and curiosity, drawing people in without overexposing ourselves. It allows us to control our narrative and avoid oversharing, maintaining a sense of authority and confidence in how we present ourselves online. The role of silence in the digital world also extends to protecting our emotional health. The constant barrage of information, opinions, and emotional triggers that flood our screens can be overwhelming and draining. The more we engage with this content, the more susceptible we become to its effects, whether it's the anxiety of comparison, the frustration of online arguments, or the sense of inadequacy that arises from scrolling through curated lives. By mastering digital silence, we create a buffer between ourselves and the negative impact of excessive online engagement. We can choose not to participate in every conversation, not to comment on every post, and not to react to every negative message. Silence in this instance is a shield that protects our emotional well-being, helping us stay grounded and focused on what truly matters in our lives. Finally, digital silence can help us reclaim control over our time and attention. In a world where attention is one of our most precious commodities, we often squander it on digital distractions. Social media, news sites, and messaging apps can pull us in and keep us hooked, demanding our constant attention. By embracing digital silence, we stop allowing these platforms to dictate our focus. We can create deliberate spaces of time for reflection, creativity, and deep work, activities that are far more rewarding and fulfilling than mindlessly scrolling through feeds. In doing so, we increase our productivity, enhance our creativity, and build a life that is more aligned with our values rather than being driven by the digital noise around us. In conclusion, mastering digital silence is not about retreating from the online world entirely. It's about regaining control over how we communicate, how we present ourselves, and how we interact with others in the digital realm. By speaking less, we can be more intentional, more impactful, and more grounded in our digital lives. Silence, in this sense, is not weakness or passivity, but a powerful tool for creating space, clarity, and purpose in a world that is often overwhelming and noisy. The more we embrace digital silence, the more we can navigate the online world with intention and grace, using our voice only when it truly adds value, rather than letting the constant stream of digital noise drown out our most important thoughts and ideas. Chapter 11. The Mindful Speaker. Speaking with purpose and precision. In a world where noise, distractions, and information overload are constant companions, the art of speaking with purpose and precision has never been more vital. To be a mindful speaker is to approach communication with an intentionality that ensures your words have weight, clarity, and meaning. Speaking with purpose is not just about the words you choose, it's about the intention behind them, the pauses you take, and the careful consideration you give to your listener's experience. It's about mastering the delicate balance between speaking when necessary and knowing when silence speaks louder than words. A mindful speaker is aware that communication is not a mere transaction of ideas, but a deeper connection with another person, an invitation to engage, understand, and ultimately create a space where both parties feel heard, valued, and respected. To speak with purpose, the first step is to cultivate awareness. This awareness goes beyond simply understanding what you're saying. It's about understanding why you're saying it. Every time you prepare to speak, pause for a moment to reflect on the intention behind your words. Ask yourself, what do I want to achieve with this statement? Is this necessary? Does this add value to the conversation, or is it simply noise? This moment of reflection, no matter how brief, will help you discern the difference between speaking out of habit or emotion and speaking with true intention. When we speak mindfully, we begin to notice how much unnecessary chatter fills our lives. Many of us have been conditioned to fill silence with words, to fill space with ideas, often out of a fear of being perceived as quiet, uninterested, or disengaged. But it's essential to recognize that silence does not equal emptiness. Silence is an opportunity. When we embrace it, we make room for more thoughtful, intentional communication. It's not about saying less for the sake of saying less. It's about ensuring that when we do speak, we speak with purpose, precision, and meaning. One of the most powerful tools of a mindful speaker is the ability to pause. In conversation, we often feel compelled to fill the air with words, particularly when there's a gap or an awkward silence. But this impulse to fill every moment with speech often diminishes the power of our message. The pause, on the other hand, is a powerful communication tool. It gives weight to our words and allows the listener to digest the information, to reflect, and to respond thoughtfully. In this way, the pause becomes a sign of respect, not just for the listener, but for the message itself. It's also a way to check in with yourself, to assess whether what you're about to say is truly aligned with your purpose and whether it's adding value to the conversation. The pause creates space for clarity, for conscious thought, and for a deeper connection with others. It forces us to slow down, to detach from the urgency to speak, and to become more aware of the rhythm of our communication. Moreover, speaking with purpose requires us to be discerning with our words. Precision is key. It's easy to get lost in overly complicated explanations or to embellish our thoughts with excess detail, especially when we feel the need to justify ourselves or prove our point. But clarity and simplicity are often far more effective. Precision does not mean sacrificing nuance or depth. It means stripping away the superfluous and distilling your message to its core, ensuring that every word serves a specific function in conveying your intent. This process of distillation is one of the hallmarks of mindful communication. By consciously choosing our words, we respect both the listener's time and our own energy. In this way, speaking with purpose isn't about saying everything, it's about saying what matters most. A mindful speaker also understands the importance of non-verbal communication. Our body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and even our silence communicate just as much as our words. In fact, studies have shown that the majority of communication is non-verbal. When we speak with purpose, we bring our whole selves into the conversation, ensuring that our body language aligns with our words and that our energy and presence reinforce the message we're trying to convey. For example, speaking with a steady, calm tone can instill confidence in the listener, while leaning in slightly can signal interest and engagement. Conversely, fidgeting, crossing our arms, or speaking in a rushed or fragmented manner can convey disinterest, discomfort, or a lack of confidence. Being a mindful speaker means not just carefully selecting words, but also being attuned to how our bodies and voices communicate meaning. This awareness enhances our overall presence and the impact of our message, ensuring that everything we communicate, both verbal and non-verbal, is in harmony. Another essential aspect of mindful speaking is the ability to truly listen. A mindful speaker does not dominate conversations or monopolize dialogue. Instead, they understand that listening is just as important, if not more so, than speaking. Listening allows us to truly understand the needs, desires, and perspectives of others, which in turn enables us to respond in a way that is more aligned with the conversation's flow and the other person's needs. When we listen deeply, we can adjust our responses accordingly, choosing words that are more meaningful and relevant. Active listening also allows us to recognize when silence is more appropriate than speech. Sometimes, the most mindful response to a situation is not speaking at all, but simply offering the gift of our undivided attention. The act of listening is not passive, it's an active engagement with the person in front of us, an invitation to connect and understand on a deeper level. Lastly, speaking with purpose involves cultivating self-discipline. It's easy to get carried away in the heat of the moment, to blurt out things that are impulsive, defensive, or reactionary. But mindful speakers understand the importance of emotional regulation and restraint. By practicing self-discipline, we choose to respond rather than react, to carefully consider the impact of our words before letting them slip out. This doesn't mean stifling our emotions or avoiding difficult conversations. It means engaging with those emotions thoughtfully and articulating them in a way that serves the greater good of the conversation. The more we practice this discipline, the more natural it becomes, and the more we are able to communicate with clarity and precision, even in high-pressure situations. In conclusion, being a mindful speaker is not about saying less for the sake of silence. It's about saying what truly matters. It's about being intentional with our words, choosing them carefully, and being fully present in our conversations. It's about understanding that silence and pauses are powerful tools that can amplify our message. It's about respecting both our listeners and ourselves by choosing communication that is clear, concise, and meaningful. When we master the art of speaking with purpose and precision, we unlock the full power of our voice, ensuring that every word we speak carries weight, fosters connection, and leaves a lasting impact. Conclusion. In conclusion, the strength in silence, mastering the art of saying less, is not just about speaking less for the sake of it. It is about understanding the true power that silence holds in our lives. Throughout this journey, we've explored how saying less is not a weakness, but a remarkable strength, one that enhances clarity, influence, and depth in our personal and professional lives. The simple act of being mindful about what we say and when we speak has the power to shift the way others perceive us, and more importantly, the way we perceive ourselves. Silence has long been associated with contemplation, wisdom, and strength. From ancient philosophers to modern leaders, many have recognized that the ability to listen and choose our words carefully can be far more impactful than speaking endlessly without thought. The science and psychology behind silence reveal that our brains process and retain information better when it's delivered succinctly. We've learned that brevity is not just the soul of wit, it is the soul of effective communication. In conversations, relationships, and negotiations, when we speak less, we make room for others to speak, to think, and to feel heard. This openness fosters deeper connections, allowing us to build trust and rapport in ways that talking more often can never achieve. In silence, we allow space for reflection, for better decisions, and for understanding to flourish. We've also seen how silence can be a tool of great leadership, as those who speak less often command greater respect and authority. The quiet leader knows that actions and decisions speak louder than words, and that by listening more and talking less, they foster a culture of collaboration, innovation, and empowerment. Moreover, we've come to understand how silence can be a powerful tool in conflict resolution, allowing us to maintain control of difficult situations by resisting the temptation to react impulsively. It's in these moments of restraint that we show the greatest strength, exhibiting emotional intelligence and a deeper awareness of what truly matters. Silence, when wielded with intention, can be far more persuasive than any words we utter. As we navigate an increasingly noisy and chaotic world, we are reminded of the importance of preserving our inner peace and purpose. In the digital age, where information is constant and overwhelming, choosing silence can be an act of self-preservation, offering us the clarity and focus to discern what truly aligns with our values. But silence is not just about what we choose not to say. It's about choosing when to speak and making our words count. The mindful speaker is one who understands that every word has weight, and that true influence comes not from talking more, but from saying what truly matters. The practice of saying less is a lifelong journey, one that requires patience, discipline, and self-awareness. It's about resisting the urge to fill every gap with noise and embracing the power of the pause. The next time you find yourself in a conversation, consider the strength in silence. Practice listening more, reflecting more, and speaking with purpose. You will be amazed at the impact it has on the quality of your relationships, the respect you garner from others, and the clarity that unfolds in your mind. In a world that often values speed, volume, and constant activity, there is unparalleled power in slowing down, being present, and saying only what truly matters. By mastering the art of saying less, you unlock a new realm of influence and self-confidence. You tap into a deeper understanding of yourself and those around you, and ultimately, you create the space for true connection, growth, and success. So, as you leave this audiobook and return to your life, remember this: the strength in silence is not in the absence of words, but in the mindful choice of when and how to use them. Let this be your challenge to embrace the power of silence in your daily interactions and witness the incredible transformation that comes when you speak less and listen more. Silence, after all, is not empty. It is full of possibility. And in that possibility lies the key to unlocking your greatest potential.